Okay. Hi, everyone. Today I've got here Stuart Rubenstein, who is a business advisor with Cultivate Advisors. And we're going to talk a little bit about Stuart's expertise and what it is he does. Stuart, thank you for joining me today and hope everything is well with you. I'm going to just jump into some questions for you, if that's okay.
Great, Anthony. Thank you.
Okay. First of all, tell me a little bit about your background and how you got into your current role.
Sure. I owned a art manufacturing and consulting company for about 16 years, purchased it, grew it, scaled it, and then sold it to a larger competitor. And after that, I decided that I wanted to help other small business owners learn from both my mistakes and my successes. And so I started doing business advising and been doing that for about 4 years. And several months ago, I joined Cultivate Advisors. It's an advising firm based out of Chicago. We've got about 50 advisors around the country. And what I really liked about Cultivate was they have a very structured framework for helping business owners grow and scale their businesses.
Okay. In your experience, and I know you've been advising business owners for several years, what are the biggest mistakes you see owners make when they're thinking about selling their business?
I think it's mainly not really preparing far enough in advance to sell the business. Basically, what you need to do in preparing to sell that business is a couple main things. You got to make sure your financial situation is secured, is very sound. You've got to make sure that the business is not dependent on you, the owner. When, as you know, Anthony, when buyers come in to
Yes.
look at a business,
Yep.
if once the owner is gone, there's nothing left. There's
Right.
not much value there. And then just really the overall health of the business. Has the owner been looking at the business as an asset or as a job? And what we really help business owners do is change their mindset to look at the business as an asset. For many business owners, this is going to be their largest asset. And so we help over time business owners improve the health of their business. So at the point where they come to you, Anthony, to sell the business, it's healthy. The financials look good. It's not dependent on the owner. They've got their processes and systems all set so that a new owner can come in and feel confident that what they're buying is something that's going to continue to be successful.
I have the same experience from my end, Stuart. We see all the time that business owners come to us needing to sell. They have a life-changing event, maybe a retirement or health issue, and they just have not prepared the business to sell. Now, you and I recently worked together on a transaction, and it was a very successful transaction. Business owner got an excellent price for his business, was very satisfied with the outcome. What made it easy for me was he'd been working with you for about 3 years, and you did all of those things. So I want to talk about the three areas that I see that you've already kind of mentioned, that kind of tell me how you help them with that. So the first area you already touched on is this building the business around the owner, where the business is heavily dependent on the owner, and that makes it very difficult to sell. What do you do to help the business owner overcome that?
Yeah, well, we work shoulder to shoulder with business owners to make sure that all the systems and processes are in place for their business so that it's very clear how the business operates, whether that's sales, marketing, recruiting, everything's documented. There's a clear process for everything. And then ultimately, what we do is help business owners establish a leadership team, establish people other than themselves who are doing these things. So if the business owner is the one guy responsible for sales, obviously that's a problem, right? So
Yeah.
what we do is, again, we go back to the financial engine. We make sure the financials are stable so that business owner can go out and hire and train a lead salesperson or a lead operations person so that they are running the business, not actually doing all of the day-to-day things that a business requires.
So again, you touched on some of the things that I find are important. The owner having a team, having their processes well documented, and this is really critical, is having really strong financials. So a lot of owners, I'm getting ready to close a deal with some people who are retiring, and they saw their accountant once a year. So their
Mhm.
financials, their tax returns were They brought in a box of receipts, their account statements to the accountant. He did the tax returns. Then you have buyers who want to see monthly P&L statements. And we were able to get through this, but it's not an ideal situation. So what do you do to help that owner get a better handle on the financial aspects of their business?
Yeah, well, we get very detailed in terms of financial planning. The first thing we do, obviously, is we go in and we look at the financials and make sure that everything is structured in their accounting software correctly. I've helped, like the transaction you just mentioned, help that owner get more detailed in their QuickBooks so that people could see where the revenue was coming from. It wasn't just sales revenue, it was by product or by customer. So we go in and help with some of those things. We also, one of the first things we want to do is work with the owners to come up with a 3 to 5 year pro forma. So, where is the business today? And then year by year, how are we going to grow and scale this business? Very detailed with revenue, cost of goods sold, expenses, net profit, so that we have a clear roadmap from where the owner is today to where that owner wants to go in the future.
Why is it you think, and again, we both see this in so many small businesses. Why do you think it is that business owners find themselves in this situation? Why they're not better prepared to sell?
Yeah, I mean, I think we both know because they're probably in the weeds of their business every day, right? I mean, you come in, you think you know what you're going to do for that day or that week, and then a customer calls or something happens in operations. There's always the daily fires to fight. And that's really also where we help business owners. You have to dedicate time to work on the business instead of in the business, or you're basically going to find yourself running on that gerbil wheel forever and never be able to grow and scale that business because you're so busy fighting the day-to-day issues that come up.
Yeah, it's the nose to the grindstone. They're deeply
Yeah.
involved in business and they don't make time to work on it. I know that a lot of business owners will say, well, that's great, that's wonderful, but I'm not going to sell in the next 3 years. I'm not going to sell in the next 5 years. I don't need this help. Now,
Right.
personally, I disagree. And I'm going to say that the things you're
Yeah.
talking about, the things that make that business a good business to sell, are things that make that a good business to have. This is not something that you need to be in the I'm going to sell mode to do. This is something you should be doing anyway. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's 2 points here, Anthony. One is you don't know what the future holds. You can sit there today and say, I'm not going to sell. I want to run it forever or whatever that may be, but you don't know what's going to happen. We had an owner here last week in town who unfortunately passed away at 63 years old. He was running an electrical contracting firm. Okay. No plan in place. Someone has to scramble to get his contractor's license because nobody else in the company had it. So even if you're not thinking about selling, you have to be prepared for other eventualities. So that's one reason. The second reason you touched on, it's a lot more fun to run a business when it's healthy, when you have a leadership team in place, when you've got all your processes and systems documented. It actually can become fun instead of that kind of nose to the grindstone situation that we all know exists. So whether you want to sell it in 3 years, 5 years, or never, having a healthy, strong business is just going to make it more enjoyable to run, and it's probably going to be a lot more profitable.
That's a great point. I tell you, one of the questions when I first meet with a business owner and we're talking about the process of selling a business, very early on, I asked the question, how many vacations do you take when you go on vacation? All right. So if I hear, oh, I never go on vacation, I can't leave the business, that is a red flag for me. That's going to be a big problem. If I hear my wife and I, we take cruises, we go away for weeks on end. Now I check in, but the business basically runs itself. That's a business that is going to not only be a lot easier to sell, but it's going to get a premium price. And as you pointed out, it's also a more fun business to run, right? When you can be making money while you're off on a cruise somewhere.
What I really like about just to make, we've had owners who come and say, look, I really want to get out of this business in a year or two. I'm done. I'm burnt out. We go in and help them. We improve the health of the business. We look at all these different areas. And then after a year or two, they say, you know what? This is actually fun. I'm not ready to get out of it yet. I'm having so much fun now. We're making money. I want to keep going. I want to grow.
That's not really good for me. I get your point. So it kind of reminds me, over the years, I know if you've ever traded in a car, I've bought and sold a lot of
Mhm.
cars in my
Mhm.
life. Before I bring it in to get to trade it in or to sell it, whatever I'm doing, I'll clean the car up, I'll detail it, and then I'll look at the car and go, you know what, this is actually pretty nice. Maybe I don't want to trade it. But you really hit on something very important. And I think that is the business owner changing their perspective
Mhm.
from my business is a job to my business is an asset. Would you agree
Mhm.
with that?
Absolutely. And as I said before, for many business owners, their business is their largest asset, and they need to be making sure that it's as valuable as possible. It's like a house, you want to take care of that house, you want to make improvements, even if you're not willing to, you don't want to sell it today, you still want to keep it up so that if you do ever want to sell it, you get the maximum return.
Again, we touched on this earlier. A lot of business owners are really busy. They figure, this is great, this is wonderful. I should do that, but I can't make the time for it right now, and then they
Mhm.
never get to it. What are some simple things that you find, some simple, quick changes business owners can make to improve their business?
Well, first of all, I'll just tell you a little bit about our model. We meet with business owners for 2 hours twice a month. And a big part of this is, as you said, if you can't pull yourself out of your business for 4 hours a month, that's a red flag to work on the business. And part of what we do is we hold ourselves accountable, but we also hold the business owners accountable for making sure that we are in these meetings, that we're working on the priorities for the business. And that really helps to, again, set this roadmap and make sure that we are taking the proper steps to move that business towards where the business owner wants to get it eventually.
I think that's an excellent idea. Start with setting some time aside to work on your business. Set that time aside. Previously in our conversations, you mentioned working with clients in 90-day sprints. Can you
Yes.
explain how that works?
Yeah. So part of the process at the beginning of an engagement is to set this roadmap. We talk to the owners, we tell them where the business is today. And we have this tool that I shared with you, Anthony, called the Health and Value Assessment. It's
Yeah.
a self assessment that a business owner fills out in about 15 or 20 minutes. And it gives us an idea of where the business is today and where the gaps are in the business between where it is today and where the owner wants to take it. Okay. So those are the things that we identify. We then prioritize what is the most important. Do you need help on financials? Is it sales that you need help on? Marketing? Is it building the leadership team? We set those priorities, and then we have these what we call 90-day sprints. So the top priority, let's say we need to confirm and we need to really dig into the forecast for this year. Are we looking good on revenue and net profit? So that might be one of the items that we want to tackle in that first 90 days. And so that is the focus. So the first 90 days we work on the first one or two or three top priorities. We make sure we get those accomplished. And then at the end of the 90 days, we do a quarterly review. We say, okay, did we get accomplished what we wanted to get accomplished? Hopefully the answer is yes. And then we say, okay, what are the next two or three priorities that we want to achieve in the next 90 days? And so it's very structured. We hold everybody, ourselves and the business owners, accountable to make progress through the 90 days to achieve what we said we were going to achieve. And then we move on to the next set of challenges.
Do you find it's difficult? Business owners are used to making decisions. They're used to being the ones making decisions, and they're used to really not being held accountable by anybody. Do you find that they have a hard time really being willing to be accountable for these
It,
things?
it, it depends on the business owner. And quite frankly, we're going to be a good fit for business owners who want to improve, who are willing to be open minded, be transparent, who have a genuine interest in improving their business. If that's not what a business owner wants to do or is willing to do, then it's not a good fit. And that's okay. We're not going to be great for every business owner. Okay. But the ones that want to improve and are genuinely open to holding themselves accountable, we find it's a great relationship.
That's really good. And that actually brings me to how you and I met each other. So you contacted me one day and we'd been in contact on LinkedIn, but hadn't really talked a lot. And you contacted me one day and said, I've got a business owner who's ready to sell. He's being approached. I'm not going to mention any names, obviously. And I got talking to him, and this person is exactly what you said. He's the type of person who's willing to hold himself accountable and was willing to learn. And he had put all your processes in place. Business was very well situated to sell. We ended up finding out that the people who had approached him were not really that serious. They were doing whatever they were doing, but we found a really good buyer for his business. So I was very impressed with the work you did with him. So when you start working with these people, if their intention is to sell, when do you decide, when do you say to them, okay, now you've, or do you, now you've done all the work, now it's time to take this to market?
Yeah. So as part of our process, again, we have a software system that takes the information that they've initially provided in the health and value assessment. And so we track that over time. We track our progress. We hold ourselves accountable. Okay. So a lot of owners will come in and the business will be at a certain health level with a lot of room for improvement, right? So over these 90-day sprints, over time, we go in and we adjust those numbers. We said, hey, sales was at a 2 out of 5. Now we've gotten sales to 4 out of 5. Marketing was at a 1 out of 5. Now we've gotten it to a 4 out of 5. When we get to a health score where we can look and say, okay, the business is very healthy. We've done, the financials are strong. We've worked on all of these other areas, and the health score is pretty much as high as we all feel we're going to take that. It's time to start looking and seeing what we can get in the market, what the multiple is going to be. And that's when we would call you, Anthony, and say, look, we've done all this great work. Financials are great. Systems and processes are great. Owner has a leadership team and has pulled him or herself out of the business, and they're ready to exit. They're ready to go and do the next thing. And so that's when I call you and you do your magic. And by the way, the owner you're talking about, I've spoken with him several times since the transaction closed, and he's over the moon with the work that you did with him. So complimentary of the professionalism and the advice you gave him. And he's a great guy. I worked with him for several years. And as we both said, very coachable, very willing to take advice.
Yeah.
But he really appreciated the work you did for him.
Well, thank you. And my approach is the same, but we can help people when they'll listen to us, right? So
Absolutely.
if they're not willing to listen, then we're not able to help them.
Yeah.
So any business owner watching this interview who's thinking, maybe I want to sell my business in 3 to 5 years, what do you think they should start doing today?
Again, it's, those same areas we've talked about, right? Take a detailed look at their business and be honest
Yeah.
with themselves, okay? Those things we've talked about. Are the financials strong? Are they transparent, right? Is there a lot of weird stuff going on through those financials? How do they get those cleaned up? Do they have the systems and processes in place that their business can run if something were to happen to them? Are they too involved in the business? Are they the one responsible for sales? Are they the one who has to be there every day? So I would say it's really being honest with themselves and taking a good, hard, honest look at where that business is today, and then thinking, hey, if I was a buyer coming in to buy this business, would it be attractive to me, or would I be like, customer concentration, 80% of your revenue is from 2 customers and you're doing all the sales, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's really to do a self-assessment. And then obviously if they need help, give me a call.
Well, I gotta say, I totally agree with you. One of the struggles that we have with a lot of business owners is they look at their business with rose tinted glasses, like it's kind of their child. They
Yeah.
brought it into the world's blood, sweat, tears. They put everything into it. They look at it with this kind of rosy view.
Mhm.
And from my job and your job is we have to look at that business as it really is. We've got to
Mhm.
take a realistic view. And we've got to look at all of the negatives because that someone who's coming in to buy a business, they're going to do that. So it doesn't do the owner any justice or any service if we gloss over the issues that are there. I do want to say I did go through your tool. I did go the whole way through it. What I liked about it, I think from a business owner perspective, is it breaks down the different areas of the business and it then forces them to look at those areas so you can identify where the real issues are rather than just going, oh, we need to improve the whole business. Maybe there are elements of the business that are doing quite well that don't need so much work, but maybe there's an area over here that's doing really poorly. That's what I liked about your tool is it identified those key components of the business, which ones need more work, which ones don't. And that also helps you keep the business owner accountable and helps the business owner keep themselves accountable too.
Absolutely. We operate from what we call an enterprise value framework, which is basically what is the health of that business. And you've identified we have 6 areas that we look at: sales, marketing, leadership, recruiting, capacity, productivity. And as you said, we take that self-assessment that the owner provides and then we prioritize. So just as you said, they may say, hey, on the sales side, we're great. I need to develop a leadership team. I need to figure out how to generate more capacity. We take the areas that they've identified as the highest priorities and we work to improve the health of those areas. And then maybe later on, we tweak sales or we tweak marketing if those weren't the top priorities. But generally what we find is that all of the areas can probably use some improvement. But again, we prioritize with the owner what is the most critical element to work on first, and then we go from there in those 90-day sprints.
Thank you. So we've all heard the saying, the talk is cheap. There's a lot of people out there who talk a great game. I've certainly come across them in my life, but I believe in results. And I've actually seen the results of your work and I was highly impressed. So for any business owner listening to this or reading the transcript of this conversation, how can they get in touch with you? How can they start the process with you?
Sure. There's a couple different ways. They can contact me at my email address, Stuart, Stuart, at cultivateadvisors.com. They can also give me a call, 850-284-7609. And I would encourage any owners that might be interested to go to the Cultivate Advisors website. You'll find a lot of information. You'll find a lot of success stories on there, actual owners talking about how Cultivate Advisors has helped them. So that's a great place to start. But I'm happy to speak with anybody who is interested in improving their business, improving the health of their business, and hopefully someday working with you to sell the business and go do what they really want to do, if that's fishing or flying an airplane or whatever it might be.
Thank you so much, Stuart. I want to add one thing, and you're certainly welcome to add any final thoughts too. Sometimes I get a business owner approach me and they have to sell, right? They got to sell. They don't have that 3 to 5 years.
Sure.
What I believe strongly is that it's never too late to get started. So I've had businesses that I've listed, and by the time we got a buyer, the business had improved to the extent that we were able to get a better price. And I've seen it go the other way too, you know?
Yep.
Is that something are you open to working with business owners who don't have that time frame, but could still benefit from your coaching over a shorter time frame?
Absolutely. We generally like to have at least 12 months.
Okay.
Because we find that a lot of these things are not something you can solve. If it could be solved in a week or two, that would be easy. Everybody would do that. But we find it generally takes a year. But I mean, as you know, Anthony, businesses don't sell in a week usually or in 2 weeks, right? I mean, this is probably a multi-month, if not longer process. So I would say, yeah, if they're interested in selling right away, let's get in touch. Let's start getting the business improved. Hopefully by the time that we have some qualified buyers, the business looks a lot better and they can demand a higher price.
Thank you so much, Stuart. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, just I appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today. Again, it's been a pleasure working with you, and
Likewise.
I look forward to working with you in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I was blown away with the work you did, and I look forward to working with you in the future. And thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Anthony.
Bye.